there's two questioners that are asking a similar sort of question, and it's extraordinarily relevant to our coronavirus world context. And it's this, and it comes from Raquel and Karen as well, I believe. And they say this, why did God allow this pandemic to happen? And some other people are phrasing it in different ways. God is all powerful. He's all loving. Like, why can't he just fix it? Can't he just stop it? What's going on here? Help us here.
Yeah, well, thanks for that question, all who asked it in the different forms. And Zoe, thanks for picking that one first as well, because it's certainly on all of our minds. And I'm going to say right up front on this question, I'm not going to have a perfect answer. I would be claiming to be God to claim that I have a perfect answer to this question. And I think of, I'm a relatively new father. I have a 1-year-old. And I think about a fairly recent instance where we had to take him to a heart specialist. And in order for him to get the EKG done, which he really needed for us to determine what was going on with his heart, he had to be held down and still. And so if you can imagine, at this point, he was maybe only 6 months old. And so this 6-month-old has all these wires coming out of his chest in 10 different places. He's freaked out. And my job was, not merely to allow it, but actually to hold him down as the doctors did this to him. And he was shrieking in horror. And he must have been looking at me and saying, why is Dad not only allowing this, but he seems to be involved in it in some way. And yet, I was doing that out of love for him, because of my care for him, because I knew that this had to be part of his story for a reason that he couldn't understand. And that's one of the things that we're told in the Bible, that God's ways are beyond our ways. His understanding is beyond our understanding. So the first thing I want to say to someone who's asking this question is that if you don't feel you get a fully satisfactory answer, don't be surprised by that. And don't think that has to be a reason to call your faith into doubt, because we see exactly the same thing when we talk about human children and human parents. Sometimes the parents need to allow things in the lives of their children that the children can't understand, but sometime later they may be able to. And by analogy, the same may be true with us and God. I couldn't. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough to understand why I was doing. It was because of how young my child was at the time. I couldn't communicate to him my reasons well enough for him to understand. In fact, all I could do at the time was I just kept saying over and over, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And that's interesting language to me, that the instinct of my heart as a father, when I saw my child suffering, was just to draw close, to touch him, and to say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And for me as a Christian, that brings me right back to the incarnation. If we have a God who is transcendent and has reasons for what he allows, but we can't fully understand them, what would the loving heart of a father do? He would draw close, and Jesus is God's way of saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. If you need to go through it, I'm going to go through it with you, and I'm going to be present with you. And that's why I feel like I'm putting my trust in God even when I don't fully understand. But let me just open up maybe one angle, maybe 1.5 angles, if Zoe will let me, because sometimes, we do need to have something to hold on to begin our understanding, even if we trust that God's understanding is going to be beyond our own. One thing that I reflect on is the fact that, natural evils, as things like pandemics and earthquakes and tornadoes are called, they're not intrinsically evil. They're evil when they have bad effects on the human race. A tornado viewed from a safe distance, I've always wanted to see a tornado viewed from a safe distance when it's in the middle of nowhere and it's not going to hurt anyone. I'm sure that's a majestic, beautiful sight. It's when people are in the wrong place at the wrong time that now it becomes evil. Well, viruses are interesting also, because if viruses didn't exist, bacteria would replicate so quickly that almost immediately the entire earth would be flooded with bacteria to the extent that nothing would be able to inhabit the earth, including us. In fact, there's a whole category of viruses called friendly viruses, and it's because they are needed in order for life to be possible. And so sometimes we need to ask the question, if God wanted us, and he wanted us in an environment where we could actually come to exist and have an opportunity to respond to him, how fine-tuned would that need to be? What exactly would that environment need to look like? And then, final point I'll make, let's take that one step further and say, what if God didn't just want an environment which would allow for us as a race to come to exist, as a human race? But what if he wanted an environment that would allow for Zoe to come to exist, and for Vince to come to exist, and for each one of us watching to come to exist? You know, it doesn't take changing much for you to be taken right out of existence. You know, sometimes I might get mad at my dad and think, boy, Mom, I wish you married someone else. Maybe he would have been taller. Maybe he would have been more athletic. Maybe I could have been a black belt in karate like Zoe if my dad had more athletic genes, right? I might think this would have been better off for me if things had been different. But of course, I'm making a philosophical mistake there, because if my mom wound up with someone else and not me, it wouldn't have been me who came to exist. Maybe they would have had a very nice kid, but it wouldn't have been me. My point is this. All I did there was change one detail about the universe. Imagine if we don't just change one detail, but we change the way plate tectonics work. We change the way bacteria and viruses work, right? We change the laws of thermodynamics, undergo a redesign. What would be the results? And one result might be that none of us listening right now would have been able to exist. And I think, as I read the Bible, that God desired for each person who's watching right now to come to exist. He recognized that that might have to be in a world which was harsh. If he did that, I think he only would have if he knew he would come and suffer with us, and if he would give us the opportunity to say yes to him, such that one day we would live in an environment that would not be like that. And that would be a place where there would be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. So before time, you have God choosing us individually. He recognizes that's going to take a harsh environment to produce us. In time, he comes and makes sure to suffer alongside us. And then at the end of time, he finally makes things right. At each point in the story, you have a God of love that you can put your trust in, even as we deal with the very understandable frustrations of what we're dealing with right now.